Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Michelle for AfroExpats. Today we're continuing our interview with Roxana and Rakia. They are located in Veracruz, Mexico, and they agreed to participate in my lifetime series that I want to use to highlight Black expats who live around Mexico. This is part 2 of 3 of their interview. Enjoy. Almost mission impossible, as we know, right? We can come here on a tourist visa. A lot of people come and stay and they do things and whatever. At the end of the day, my point is to have a little more grace, and that's it. Give yourself a little bit more time to, just be patient.
So what I find, particularly in the expat groups, Rakia alluded to it, you're talking about it now, the situational awareness. There was an article in one of the expat groups, the Black expat groups, about crime in Mexico, and I wanted to say it had to do with kidnappings. And I didn't post it, whoever posted it, and my comment was, oh, I have to read this article, but, so I took to tag myself. And, it was very informative. And then people on the post were comparing the situation to the United States. And, there was, we were arguing in a very respectful way, but, we weren't agreeing with one another. And my whole point was you should have situational awareness. I live here. So I'm curious by nature, I'm inquisitive by nature. So I want to know what's going on where I live. Like if there's a situation happening in my country as in where I live, where I'm a resident, I need to know, I need to be aware, I want to be informed. I don't want to be ignorant. And people kept on talking about, well, in the States it's like this, in the States is, and I'm like, well, I don't live in the States. I live here and I'm a baby here. I'm a baby. I don't have a frame of reference here. I don't have a frame of reference. I wasn't educated here. I wasn't born here. I don't have relatives like that here. So I need to absorb everything that I can absorb now, because I live here and I need to know everything as much as I can now. And I'm further handicapped because I'm not fluent in the language. So any little information that I can gather to absorb, I need to know. So, and I say that to say, it's frustrating when we're in these Black expat groups and there's so much information having to do with the United States. This is why, personally, for me, I troll the groups. I read, I go through, and I'm like, man, I don't want to know about that. I don't care about that. What's going on in Mexico? What you got to tell me? How are you going to add value to me living as a resident in Mexico? What can I learn from this post as it relates to my life here in Mexico?
Right.
And a lot of times the information it's very derogatory, or the information is like it's vampirism, succubus, leech. It's not adding value. A lot of times the information, the posts don't add value for me. Maybe because I've been here a little bit longer. I don't know. But what I'm saying is I see a lot of lack of situational awareness. I see a lot of misinformation, and I see a lot of people wanting to just not expand themselves to kind of get to know what's going on around them living in Mexico. Yeah.
I think this happens a lot, and it happens to me. I want people to understand, when I moved here, I was a very spoiled brat. I was 24. I was 24 when I moved to Mexico, and I was in my prime of my life, okay? And I remember crossing the border with the idea of white sand beaches, margaritas, and vacation 20.
Right. And a Corona with the lime, right?
Yeah. So, I remember crossing through Tijuana because I drove down from Portland, Oregon at that time, we were just dating, right? We had been dating 2 years. And, we were fiance with no ring status. Okay. So I remember crossing the border and I was like, Tijuana is not what I saw on TV. What happened to Tijuana? So then I remember we rented our first house, and I remember in Oregon, my rent was $1,800.
That's expensive.
Yeah.
And you were
Yeah. So then when we moved to
for Oregon.
yeah, I live right downtown Portland. So when we moved to Tijuana, I got this really, really big 3-story house. It was $800 a month. And I was, in my mind, I was balling. Okay, because it was $1,000 cheaper. What I didn't know, and I only stayed in that house 2 weeks, you guys, because what I didn't know is I'm in the middle of poverty. And I got this house with a game room, bowling alley, pool hall, TV, and stuff. So now society sees me as a vulnerable American who can be bothered. I can be bothered. Right. So I think that when you come to Mexico and you make these decisions, it's important that you understand where you are and how to maneuver yourself. Right. I stayed in that house 2 weeks before they tried to rob the house. I went out to Walmart and came back with a big old hole in the fence. And my husband was like, we got to get out of here. we cannot stay here because I promise you're not going to take care of me. This is not it. And it's very important as we move around this country, you don't need to be flashy.
Exactly.
Because when you're flashy, you put a target on your back.
We already stand out.
Yeah.
Right.
The darker
Exactly. You don't need all that expensive stuff. You don't need jewelry. Really and truly, you can probably sell it and use that money in Mexico or something else.
Exactly. If you're going to, because let me tell you this, I like nice things. I mean, who doesn't? My husband has this addiction with changing the car every 6 to 9 months, so we like nice things, but we have been in one place long enough that people know us. Right. So we're no that situation where, they're new, let's take advantage of them. Right. 1, 2, I speak Spanish well enough to let people often don't really know that I'm from the United States. A lot of people think I'm either Cuban or Dominican. They think I'm anything other than American a lot of times. And so I think it's important that if you are going to be flashy, you're going to be out and about, you better have the command of the language to defend yourself. You better be able to walk the walk that you're willing to risk your life to maintain this lifestyle. If you do not, and you need to rely on this card of visa or tourism, then you need to look the part. You don't want, it's like going to New York. When you're in New York City, you can't walk in there looking like a tourist because you will be robbed. You will be robbed quickly. So it's the same thing. You don't want to put yourself in a bad situation. You gotta, I think when we leave outside of our comfort zones, the first thing that you need to be able to take with you is a good head. You gotta have a great headspace. Yeah. You gotta, a lot of things are preventative. I've been here 12 years and I've never been robbed. I've never been harassed to the point where I feel unsafe for my life. Right. And I'm telling you, I have lived from Tijuana to Merida to Sonora, Nayarit. I have been all over the Republic of Mexico. And I who took advantage of me? The Chinese people in Mexico.
What Chinese people where?
In Mexico, listen, Mexico City, Zocalo, Mexico City. The owners, I guess you don't even realize that the owners now of these tianguis or shops are Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean. Same thing in Tulum, Quintana Roo. The owner that you're not seeing is Asian, and these are the people.
That part I know, but like, in what capacity did they take advantage of you?
Oh, I went to go get a Gatorade, and I did not speak Spanish because when I moved to Mexico, I was very much like everybody else. I did not speak the language, and I was super independent and very hard-headed. My husband would tell me to wait, and that was not a part of my vocabulary. So I would go to the store, and the Chinese man asked me. I asked him for a Gatorade about this big. He charged me 80 pesos. That was the first time I got taken advantage of. The first time I was like, oh, well, in my American days, I was like, what is 80 pesos here? Bye. Then I went back to the store and I got a wicker laundry basket. And then I said, and he charged me 900 pesos. My husband had it up to here. My husband was like, okay, no, we're going back. Because if the Mexicans are not going to do this to you, the Asians are not either. But I will tell you this. That was an experience that pushed me right over into, I'm going to learn this language. I'm going to dominate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to dominate it because it should not be that I'm getting taken advantage of simply because I don't know the law of the land and I don't speak the language. And these two things pushed me into not learning enough to float by, but to be local in my Spanish. I mean, even Nawa. I learned Nawa to go grocery shopping at the markets because I want to make sure that I can communicate with the indigenous community also because this way I have another level of respect in my community.
Right.
And so that is super.
Language is culture.
Exactly. That was super important to me. And I would hope that I'm not the only person that is important too. That you learn what is Spanish one. But if there's natives in your community who deal with the agriculture, you learn their language too. So that way, when you need furniture, when you need vegetables at a larger mayorero, I don't know how to say mayorero in English anymore. Wholesale. When you need wholesale vegetables, you can talk directly to who farms these things.
Right.
And this you get a better deal, but you help them directly, and they cut out that government middleman of these high taxes. But you have to be able to command the language to do so. So that way you win and they win also. So right. These are things, and you get to experience living in, I guess, a township, because even when we go to Quintana Roo, I mean, it's very hard for you to speak Mayan outside of the travel areas because it's a culture that's very close-knit, right? But I do recommend, if you're traveling to Palenque, if you go in to Tulum or Quintana Roo area, that you know Mayan, that you know a couple Mayan words, so that the people feel as if you care about them.
Right.
That you care about them. And
you're not speaking the colonizers' language.
That's a whole other thing too, because when you speak to indigenous people, a lot of indigenous don't speak Spanish. They rather
speak English. The indigenous people here have told me and my daughter many a times they prefer to speak English than Spanish because of their colonial legacy. And I said, I'm with you. I understand. We're on the Anglophone side. We're a subjugated, colonized people. They have told us time and time again they would rather speak English because of all the atrocities that have been done to them by the Spanish crown.
Wow.
Indigenous people.
Even to this day, when indigenous people, and I'm gonna jump off subject, but I tell you, I go hard for Mexico. Even to this day, when the indigenous have children, the government here makes them change their names. They cannot.
The government. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, the government influences them to give them Spanish names, not indigenous names.
Oh.
You will see. And listen. I work in the school district here. You will meet children Jet Li, John Black, and I'm just like, where did you get this name from? And then it's a thing. The government here does not allow the indigenous to register their children with indigenous names, so it's still a problem with the
erasure, miscegenation.
We still have this problem here.
Xenophobia.
And I mean, it's kind of, and I always tell them, what this happens. I try to make people know. I don't know. This happens in my culture too. We name our children so that they get good jobs. We don't name them LaQuisha, Rakisha, and no sé qué, because this doesn't look good on the resume. Because here the resume has a photo, but over there in the United States we don't do that anymore. So it's so much craziness how a likeness we share but we just don't have the opportunity to sit down and politic with a lot of times to understand our likeness. And that's one thing I think. Roxanne always says this: language is definitely
Well,
culture.
we do with the Bangura Institute.
Hello? That's right. Listen, if you would like real life culture experiences, look us up. Look us up. This is what
Actually, I was going to tell you to tell me about your language school. Tell me about the Bangura Institute. I know you put it on the platform earlier on, but first of all, I want to say to both of you ladies that have your business, and I think you know this already, that is there for you and everyone else. You can, if you want to post your thing every single day, I'm not going to be bothered by it. I know that we don't always remember, but I just want you to know that it's there. And I try to encourage everyone, because you never know who's looking, right? You never know who's looking on what day, when, or whatever. That's just social media. But, I'm trying to grow it. And I really hope that, the efforts that we all put in and the effort and the research that I do, because sometimes I don't know where to go. I don't know where to start. And I don't really have those types of contacts in Mexico. I mean, it's growing, but you know what I'm saying? It's I know there's a lot out there, and it's finding it is not always easy. So I really want people to be encouraged that, this is a safe space. I'm not, as an admin, I'm not trying to control, every little detail or whatever. I haven't had anyone do anything derogatory, meaning, something crazy. I mean, there were a few vendors that were posting, I could tell they weren't, they were trying to sell us hair because, they're stereotyping us. I'm not going to talk because I got my wig on today, but my point of saying that is that, it's there for your types of things, because I really think it's amazing and great what you're doing, what you're offering. And I think that it taps into people having and be, I always say be inspired, because I think that so many folks, and we said this earlier in the conversation, only think about things in way of earning money by having a corporate job, right? The job that's giving you the 401k and the job that's giving you some insurance or whatever. But I feel like people need to think a little outside of that if they aspire at times to move abroad. What else can I do? And I know your story, Roxana, is beautiful because you just made a change, right? And you make it work. And I feel like if you are in this space in your heart and you desire something, you'll work so hard to get that, right? And I think it's possible to do that in Mexico. Doesn't mean you have to do it the way that we've been kind of conditioned to think. This is the only way I can survive, is if I have this, and this. I mean, we are all starting somewhere. Even for me doing this is the start of something completely I didn't move here thinking, oh, I want to do blah, 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 but I realized there was a need and I enjoy it. And now I'm creating this, and it's not just about money. It's I'm sharing my experience, because I think it's important for us as a race to have other options and other things and other outlets, and to come outside of that mindset. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there are plenty of amazing opportunities in the United States, and my parents have benefited from them. I've benefited from them to a certain degree, but I also do believe that there are plenty of opportunities here as well. And I want people to see that. I want them to see our face and we're talking about those things. So please tell me about your schools and what you do, because I think it's amazing.
Well, to piggyback, it's what I've done is it's really no different than what Rakia has done. I mean, she has a school 10 years now. 10 years now, she's been solid. And, another advantage of living in a place where there are not many people like you, we are big fish in a little pond. Right. Okay, because we're in an area where there are not many others like us. Mm-hmm. And Rakia has managed to build a sustainable business, taking care of her family for the past 10 years. Right. As an immigrant, she worked for schools. I basically did what Rakia did. She moved here. She worked for schools. Did the crossing thing. I didn't do the crossing thing. She worked for schools. Moved down to Orizaba. Worked for schools. And things just weren't going. There were integrity issues. There's different cultural norms that we're just not used to. And we bring our baggage with us from the United States. It's it's hard for you to retrain yourself when you're a fully functioning adult. And I say that to say all of these different things drove her to start her own business for school. So here I come and I'm doing the same thing. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to work at these schools and an integrity issue. And I'm like, yeah. And the whole thing was, I wanted children to have the same experience that my daughter was having. And I wanted children who were Black to have these same opportunities and experiences that she was having. And I wanted to replicate it through these schools. And this, one school wasn't receptive. Like I said before, the owners were receptive, but the supervisors weren't, because it wasn't their idea. So I was taking away their shine. Mm-hmm. So there was that. So I moved on to another school, and they were receptive, but this was prior to COVID, and they were receptive. And then, I'm the aggressive Americanness, New Yorkness. Mm-hmm. The school was on board, and then COVID hit, and then everyone just, people were suspended, like people just lost their ability to, think beyond COVID. And my whole thing was, we could do it virtually. We could do, we could still do this thing. So, all of this was a part of, from 2018 until now, a part of this an education initiative, the Bangura Institute. And I saw a need of having to raise the profile of linguistic education in this area. There were teachers who I interacted with who I felt as though needed more support in teaching English in this area. And with my experiences in the United States as a Spanish learner, as well as a Spanish learner for my child, I knew that there were teachers there who also needed support with their linguistic, education, their linguistic education teaching. So this is what, the impetus for the Bangura Institute. Obviously, if you are a child and you meet a friend who has a similar interest to you, you want to be able to communicate with that person, you're curious. So all of these things went into starting the Institute, because like you, I saw a need and I saw an opportunity. And I didn't like what I was going through working with someone else. And then also as an immigrant, as a child of immigrants, my mom did it, my grandparents did it, and you kind of have to, like she said, you can't be a dependent on the country. You kind of have to formulate your own thing and set your own path, and I'm getting long in the tooth. I don't want people to tell me what to do or work too much. So I do for myself.
I hear you. I really do. I totally relate with that
in
one.
My time since I was 13, I'm good.
I think I'm going to take the time to introduce what I do, because as you stated when we first started online, I go by another name. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people know me as Hernandez Ian, which is my son's name. I use Facebook or that Facebook to interact with my family back home. Mm-hmm. And because I have another Facebook that is my business, I own and operate Welsh English Career Center. What I do is I teach English, Spanish, French, and German. But apart from us being a language institute, we also help our students and community to build future plans. We teach curriculum, writing skills. We give this is what I do. I substitute curriculum. Here in Mexico, education is a problem. When I say it's a problem, it's feasible for Mexico. But a lot of my students want to go abroad, whether it be in the United States or Canada or Europe. And they are not equipped to do so because the culture here is so lackadaisical. It's so relaxed that in school, they don't learn anything about economy. They don't learn much about what is appropriate for a job or how to get a job. I've had my students come with flip-flops telling me that they, we're going on an interview. I'm like, no, you're not. So this is what I do. I prepare my students for future engagement. I call myself a scholarship digger because I dig for scholarships worldwide for my students. I have a student in Russia. I have a student in Nebraska, Michigan, and right now I'm working to get students to go to the university in Hungary. So what I do for my students is I try to set them up with full ride scholarships so that they do not have to worry about being a burden on their family, because as we all know, the average Mexican does not have a really high income, so they cannot afford to send their children out globally to study. They can barely send them to a good private school here. So what I do is, well, my idea when I first started 10 years ago is to always make sure that education was equal for those in lower economy and higher economy. Because even those who are in an economic tax bracket that is upper level, because Mexico doesn't really have a middle class, they also get stuck in the realm of, well, my parents want me to do this, so I'm going to do this. So what I do is I help them express to their parents what they really want to do, and I make their parents understand that it's not
Impossible.
It's not impossible for them to do it. So that's what Welsh English Career Center does. We give exchange programs, physical and virtual exchange programs, pen pal, so that they first get to know somebody in another environment or in the environment they would like to go to, I suppose. And then from there, we literally hold their hands all the way through the steps, from visas, education, clothing, everything. That's what we do.
Because it's not something that anyone else is doing in this area. We live in a very, I don't want to say linear thinking. Mexico is very feudal. You're very much confined, very conservative. You know, religion is a very conservative society, particularly when you leave the larger cities, where in the provinces. And the expectation is that really, in many instances, you know, you go to school, you get a job, maybe not finish school, you have children, your options are limited, you don't have choices. So in these instances, our Americanness, our thinking, our liberalness, our, you know, self-reliance, self-independent, make your own choices, it's your life. These sort of things, Rakia and I bring to the table when it comes to our businesses. Like, you do have a choice, you do have options, you know, and your key out, or your key out and up is education.
Right.
And that is that's the equalizer here for you to get to where you need to go, you know.
I have this quote that I tell my students all the time. You can lose your house, you can lose your car, but you can never lose education. It's something that you will have with you forever, and having a good education will allow you to rebuild.
Exactly.
Rebuild. So I make sure, I'm not sure if I said it already, but I have a psychology background. That's my passion. And when I moved here, I thought that I was going to go into nursing because I came out as a nurse, but that didn't work out. And the teacher that hired me helped me to understand that Mexico needed somebody like myself who would allow my students to be themselves. I push them out of their boxes. And I learned to do this with my husband. My husband has 3 degrees because he had to study what his dad wanted first, then he studied what his mom wanted, and then he finally, with me, was able to study what he wanted.
Right.
So when I realized that this is a culture thing, like you know, these kids here do what their parents make them feel will be happy or make them happy. When I learned that was the norm, I was like, this is sad. We got to give these children a way to express themselves, a way to be happy with their decisions all the time. And I mean, a lot of times, like, for example, my students who are farmers, you know, they don't want to be farmers. They don't want to be farmers. They want to be entrepreneurs. But unfortunately, because their grandfather wasn't an entrepreneur, they feel like it's not reachable. It's not attainable for them. So my thing is to sit with them and, okay, you want to farm? Do you really want to farm, or do you want the world to buy your coffee? Because if you want the world to buy your coffee, you got to study business administration or international business. And that does not mean, like I said, I don't want to get long in the tooth here, but they almost always feel like if they don't get accepted into the public college, then college is not it's not available to them.
Options, you know, and that's the sad part of it, you know, the confinement, limited opportunities, and Asian classes, and there's a lot of different things that I've learned in this time that I've been here that Kia's taught me, what I've observed by living here. Mexico is very conservative, and the family orientedness is a beautiful thing, but it can be also very detrimental, a handicap, and a lot of codependency, which is something that is an antithesis of us being from the United States. I'm raising my daughter, she's with me here, but the whole point is for her to fly and be free and do her own thing. And a lot of times, wings get clipped in a society such as this, and it's the religion has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah,
very conservative, linear thinking, the sameness,
Right.
Not, they can't accomplish it because it's just not on the plate for them.
It's not on the plate for them. My director at one of my schools told me, "I love talking to you, Roxana." I'm like, sure, she says, "I can be free with you. I can really be honest with you. I can say whatever I want." I was like, of course, whatever way is there to be. Listen, look, English is straight. I said, it's an ugly language, but it's straightforward. I said, it's beautiful and flowery. We don't talk in circles. I said, and I said, being a New Yorker, give it to me straight. I said, just tell me how you feel. I said, you will always have my respect. Just tell it to me straight.
Right.
You don't have to or talk in flowers. I'm not, I speak English and I'm from New York. Tell it to me straight. And she used to always love to come and complain to me about things. And then, the teachers would talk to me and I took it upon myself. I said, okay, let me be the rude New Yorker and let me go talk to these people, because I knew I could say certain things that they couldn't say. I got away with things that they couldn't because I would just plead, oh, I'm the rude American. You understand what I mean? Because they couldn't based on their cultural norms. So I was like, well, let me go talk. I'll go talk to them, So that's what I've observed, working amongst locals, not just living, I worked with locals every day, so I learned a lot that way. And I miss that. This Corona really gets on my nerves. Really, really.
Hay un dicho aquí en México que es muy importante, que muchos saben, cállate, te ves más bonito, o callado te ves más bonito.
Sí, yo entiendo. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know Roxana and I, we're feminists, and I'm real big in my community to help my women. We are not going to be quiet, and my beauty does not remain just because I'm quiet. I'm pretty with this big mouth. So I teach my women, my students, my girls, I'm like, you know what? You're going to go and you're going to apply for this job. You're going to go and apply to get into this university. I've had so many women engineers who are so smart, but they just will fade into the background because they have been bred to be callado, más bonito. Entonces, I'm all about changing up that narrative. My husband tells me all the time, you're not going to change the system. I'm going to die trying.
Exactly. Or at the very least, you're going to create a trickle effect, which is you give 10, let's just say 10 women the opportunity to have the voice that they need to succeed in a different way, right? And then later in life, those 10 are going to affect 10 more. So now you're increasing the numbers. And unfortunately, it's a generational thing. And I feel the same for us, even doing this, moving somewhere else, right? This is probably going to affect my son's kids in the future or someone he knows. And I think it's a trickle effect, but it's still an effect that you started. And that's why I say we're pioneers, because we didn't wait necessarily for someone to take us by our hand and lead us to something else. We took the bull by the horn because fortunately we had enough of whatever was handed down to us. My mom and my aunts are very strong, crazy Jamaican ladies. And, my dad being Mr. kind of, stereotype and women are supposed to be, which created me, who's like, no. And, and I'm really close with my dad, but because of all these different things that affect us, I think we develop into these people, and we want to teach people the things that we learn, and we want them to continue teaching and passing those things down. So you keep doing that because it affects someone. I mean, I had a for example, I call her my niece, but she was a step niece, and when she was very little, 2 or 3 years old, she didn't have the best living situation, and I would take her, and I always talked to her every weekend. She would spend every weekend with me, and she was little. And she's now in her like late 20s. And she always says, I didn't understand the things you were telling me when you were telling them to me, but I get it now. And it stayed with her. And that touches my heart so much because she's so everything that I would want a child to be, right? And in the sense of determined, a go-getter, like not giving up, not like not succumbing to, failure, like, pick yourself up, dust yourself. Just because your environment is this, it doesn't always have to be that. At some point you get older and you make your own choices. Yes, it's tough right now, but you're going to be okay, right? You're going to push through this. And those things that don't break you, because they won't, will make you stronger. Feed the fire into that, right? Whatever it is. Like when I started my business, I had so many things, there was the whole single thing and the single mom and whatever. And I just remember at night, and I've told this story to many people, at night going to bed and just saying, I refuse to melt down and cry or whatever. I would just, tomorrow's another day. And I would literally envision myself putting black war paint on my face and getting up. And I'm like, me and my son are going to be okay, right? We're going to be fine. I got to keep doing ABC, keep pushing through. This is a moment. This is a small chapter. So everything you're doing and everything that you've done and all of the ambition, it affects people. And you may not even see how right now, you know what I'm saying? But 10 years from now, 5, someone's going to be calling you up and being like, you know what, Rakia, you know what, Roxana, thank you so much for all of that, right? Because all of that you're giving them, it stays with people and they gain strength from it and they grow and they see things different than their norms, right? What the box is, and I've had that in my life as well. I mean, I had adversity that made me see like, no, I'm going to prove that that's not the way, I am, or that's not the way my culture is, or that's not the skin color that dictates me. I'm going to be A, B, and C, and we all have those lessons. And I think we don't always realize who gains from it in the moment, but for sure, I think what you're doing is amazing.
Oh, definitely. She's planting. She has like 1,000 godchildren. And godchildren in this culture, godchildren in the culture, it's very, it's very important. It's very highly valued. And there are people that have given their children to her as godchildren. And that shows the reverence and the respect for her and her community.
Yeah.
She's like, that's my godmother. I thought that was your godmother. Oh, she's my godmother too. I said, that one too. So that shows you the level of respect because it's a very sacred thing in this culture.
My thing is, everybody's I'm Tia Rakia because they know that if there's ever something academically, I have been what you say. I'm not the police for spoken English because I probably mispronounced several words even in this interview because I speak more Spanish now than I do English. And when I teach English, I'm always at this basic level that I just forget adult English words because I don't use them as much as I should. Or as I would love to, but I speak more Spanish. But the point here is that I'm the woman, when your child goes to school and they're mistreated, they're like, oh no, go get Miss Rakia. Yeah. And I will go, what is going on here? What are you doing to my child in this building? So that's my thing. I am very much active in my community, and it's like I keep preaching it. And I think we spoke about this too the last time, or the first time I met you. Right. There's so many opportunities for us here as Americans, but you must, have your papers in order so that you can partake in these opportunities. Right. That is super important for you, as not you personally, but us as expats to come here, that we get involved and we work our virtual businesses. And we're not afraid to share who we are with our community because they learn from us. we as women who don't have a background behind us, you know, we don't have our dad to call like, hey, this happened to me, but we're still here standing, we're still able to defend for ourselves. The young generation of women here, or the young ladies here, look at us as role models. And we can be role models for them, role models for other Black little girls, role models for Mexican little girls, just role models for women in general. Right. That, you know, we can take our education and it allows them to see, because automatically they think of us as we're on a different scale for them, automatically, right? Because we have this Americanness with us. But when we come out of that Americanist shell and we show them that, you know what, I had a struggle too. You know, I'm all about I had to work and study, because a lot of the students I work with, work and study for the rich Mexican is not even an option. But work and study for the poor Mexican is definitely the only way they're going to go to school. So you have to you have to show them that we are one and the same. We women have had this struggle, this what is it called? This conversation or this dialogue is not just Mexican, it's not just American, it's not just African. All of us have this commonality as women who want to be educated. We must we must have this strong educational base, and I think this is one of the reasons, you know, Roxana came here and Amir's is doing well, because you got to have this good foundation. You and your son in Allende, your son is doing well with the education first, and he's going to be a tremendous force to be reckoned with later in life, because our children are going to understand culture sensitivity on a whole nother level, and vice versa. My students here, listen, my student in Russia teaches Black history because he learned with me and he knows how important it is. You know, he calls me, he's like, hey, I need help with planning the Thanksgiving event. He's studying to be an astronaut, you know? And he's like, but I'm making extra money teaching. And like, I want to teach Thanksgiving, but I don't want to teach this Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. I want the massacre, like you taught me. And these things, they warm me up. I mean, I'm a crier. I mean, he makes me cry every time he calls, because it's like, Auntie, tell me this. I want to make sure this is correct, you know? And I mean, all my students, I always tell them, you are a reflection of me. My son is an only child by birth, and he has so many brothers and sisters because they all look out for him. And I'm like, if I close my eyes today, all of you must promise me to make sure that my son has the same opportunity, culture-wise, on both sides. You know, make sure that what he needs, he does what he needs to know, and make sure that he knows that I'm never going to accept anything less than a B from school, because I've never accepted anything less than a B. I give them expectations. That's what I make sure my students know. When the family, listen, if here, education is not that important. So with me, I make them understand education is the key. And if you're not going to have this key, I just don't know. I don't know what doors you're going to be knocking on, because they're just not going to open for you. They're not, you know, I had a lady tell me yesterday, we had an interview, you know, and she was like, how do you, I introduced her to my students, some of them, and she said, I told my students, tell her what you want to do. And I have one who wants to build prosthetics. And she was like, how does he know what to do at 13? How does he have this idea? I said, because I've been working with him since he was 6. And he has Asperger's on top of that. And I never let him feel as if he couldn't. Because you need to figure it out. What do you want? What do you want? I'm not telling you what your mom wants, but I'm not telling you what you want. I want you to tell me what it is you want. So that way, we work on that and solely that. And this way, if it fails, you can blame yourself. You can't blame me, and you can't blame your mom. You just blame yourself for your failure, but you get up and you keep moving. And it's so important. It's my motto. They have to do well. They have to be exceptional human beings, so that way they can be exceptional in academics.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fantastic thing. And, you know, I mean, there's such a wealth of information here. I just think it's amazing.
I want to say something to talk about what you said, that the woman was surprised that at 13, he knew that he wanted to be, to make prosthetics. And I think, again, you know, we had just had this discussion. Her suegro told her that we, particularly Black people, we, what is the word? We don't let our children be children. And I said, okay, while on the flip side of that, when she said education is not important, at times I feel that the Mexicans that I've encountered, what I've observed in this community, I was talking about my experiences, what I've observed. I'm not broad stroking the country, but what I've encountered, I feel as though children are indulged too much, they're coddled too much. And that's just not what we're doing in my household. So I say that to say, Mexicans believe that, you know, children should have an extended childhood in this area.
Yes, they enjoy their name. Yes.
You know, while, you know, with you know, the Black experience, the Black American, Caribbean, African experience, you know, where, you know, I'm preparing my daughter for life without me. That's what I feel my responsibility is. Because when I fall down and close my eyes, she has to be a fully functioning, well-adjusted adult to take care of herself.
Exactly.
So this is how I'm preparing my child. So, you know, so it just shows how, you know, they have to talk and walk and you know, be self-reliant and independent. And that's a different dynamic in our area. What I've observed here, children are held longer. You as a parent are supposed to carry your child's book bag. Unheard of in my community. What are you talking about? Carry your load. It's your load and you have to carry it on your head.
Exactly.
That's all you do when you load. So I say that to say that there's the differences in how, that's why she's called on to kind of light that fire in her community with the parents. She's like known as the loving disciplinarian. You know, I'm just mean. Nobody like talk to me. I'm just mean. They can't talk to me. They can't stand me. I'm mean.
It's not that you're mean. I put sugar on life for them. Roxana,
habanero. Here it is. Scotch bonnet. Life is hard.
That's the difference. How would it be like?
I don't indulge children. I don't like that. I don't coddle. I can't. I just can't. That's just, I don't. Oh, she's mean.
We're
hard.
Like good cop, bad cop.
Yeah,
here.
life is hard.
Okay.
You have to.
It's true.
Now.
Life is hard. Yeah, you gotta.
Life is hard, but when I want to show you life is hard, talk to Roxana.
Right.
What's my good cop thing doesn't work, and I'm like, what are you doing, child, with your life? And they still talk to Roxana.
Exactly, like you said, good cop, bad cop.
Our children are well mannered and very polite because that's the culture that we come from. You know, that's the culture that we come from, and they're known to be studious. And because that's our value system, you know, it's us, our parents, our grandparents, you know, we blood, sweat, and tears. So these are the values that we have that, you know, we share through our businesses.
Exactly. And I will tell you this, if you have the opportunity or the pleasure to speak to our students, you will know so much about our culture. You know, they will never tell you what, or they will not approach you in a very thoughtful manner. Because my students like my kids. I've been known to you gonna get this. And in turn, you know, they need really great references and reviews for jobs in schools because they know how to carry themselves. They know how to carry themselves respectfully. You're not gonna get that normal, I suppose, experience with them where it's okay. No, when especially my teenagers, you'll think you're talking to an adult real quick because I tell you, listen, 16, you grown up in here. You're gonna pay attention, you're gonna be respectful. And I do this because, you know, in Mexico at 30, you need to retire. If you're not already working, you're done. You need to retire. And your children have to work.
I should be dead by now. I shouldn't be working. I should be underneath the ground. They'll say we need X person from 18 to 30. Jobs are posted like that. So, you know, if you're not established by the time you're 30, it is difficult, you know, unless you have a hookup, you know, nepotism. But if you don't have that hookup, it's very hard for you to maneuver and to secure a future. It's so unfortunate because a lot of chips are stacked against you because of the way the society is structured.
Right.
But this is to learn if you are interacting with locals and not living in an immigrant expat bubble.
That's the key right there. To get back to rounding out our conversation, we could talk on and on about our personal experiences here. To round about our conversation again, it's super important that you take the time to learn what is the normalities in your individual community.
Right.
If I remember us talking about the SAT situation and starting up these your own companies, your own jobs here, and sometimes people can give you information that's not very beneficial. It's also kind of deterring you. And no, Mexico is very open, and every president has a new way of doing things, which is super important to understand here. It's not like back in the States where the law is concrete and it never changes. No, here, wait it out. Just wait it out for the new political party, and some law is going to give you their opportunity, because it did for me. I wasn't able to get married right away because one president was like, nah. Then the next president said, I was able to get married. I was able to start my business. I was ready to have a little taxes. Things changed. And now, things are elevated again. So it's just, I guess I would like people to take away from this conversation. When you live outside of tourist areas, you get a different life experience that is beneficial for you and your legacy. Correct. Meaning, as you just shed this, you shed a skin of importance, and you grow another skin of understanding, I suppose. Because I know I did. I told you, I was very honest. I came to Mexico very spoiled, very entitled, very the world needs to continue to revolve around me. And Mexico slapped me around viciously. And it was either you gonna go home or you gonna make this your home. Right. And when I looked across the border in California, I was like, I don't want to go back. I'm out now, and I want to be a mom because I wasn't like you ladies. I left young and free, so I was like, I want to one day be a mom. I want to, see what else is out there. And so I was like, no, you're gonna have to adjust your kid. You're gonna have to adjust real quick to the new norm of where you are, and stop looking for what makes you comfortable. Because I will tell you that before, I would never live in an area with no Walmart. I would never live in an area. Listen, I would never even entertain the idea of living in an area without Walmart. It was just unheard of to me. And I moved to Orizaba without Walmart. There was look, Orizaba now is a city. And when I moved here, there were sheep in the street. Right. So I would tell Roxana, I was like, listen, this old movie theater, like we would literally get to the movie theater and you have to shoe the sheep because they would shoot. And now we have a Walmart, but and I made it. What I want to say to people is, I made it. I'm still here. I'm just now getting this Walmart, and I've learned that milk comes from cows. It doesn't actually come in a jug from the refrigerator in Walmart. Exactly. So it's just things that living here helps me to shed that materialistic skin, shed that easy living skin, shed that. I studied and I make money, and I don't need to live like this to be
I'll tell you, when I'm out and about, we don't hear English anymore when we're out and about, unless we're talking amongst ourselves. But if I happen to catch you on the rare times, I get irritated because I think.
Well, don't come to them now, because it's everywhere.
I don't want to hear English in the street. Are you on tourism? Are you? No. I only want to hear Spanish or indigenous language. I don't want to hear English unless it's
right. I love that. So this, for me, this makes me want to visit because, when I came here, like I said, a huge part of that was I needed to make sure my husband was comfortable with the transition. Otherwise, I knew it would be more like stress for me trying to, do every single
Acclimatize
thing.
him.
Yeah, because you know how it is. I mean, you need to go to the grocery store, you need to ask a question, or you need to get a taxi, you need to figure out where a street is or whatever. And so this space in this moment fits. And also for my son, like, for example, when we moved here, I was so excited for him to learn Spanish. And as soon as he picked up one or two friends in our development, they all are bilingual, right? Even if they're born and raised in Mexico, they all speak English. So this was kind of a nice eye opener for me, but I would get frustrated because I wanted them to talk to him in Spanish. And I was just like, I would ask his friend, hey, can you please speak to him in Spanish? And they literally would look at me and say, okay. And then they would go right back to English, and they still do. So all of the children here have, one parent that's American or both parents that are Mexican, but maybe one parent spent half of their childhood in the US, and they all, like, I just realized a few weeks ago, one of my neighbors, I could have sworn up and down she was American, right? Because her English is perfect. So just my mindset, again, I never asked her. I just assumed, her husband was born and raised in Mexico because I met him and he has an accent. She doesn't. And yeah, we were hanging outside talking, and my husband says to me, did you know Lori was not American or wasn't born in the US? I said, I had no idea. So it was one of those moments again where, here we are making assumptions about things. You look at someone's skin tone or whatever, and you're just like, oh, they speak great English and, they must be blah, blah, blah. When